Hi, I'm John Quai from MyCake Delights. Today I'm going to do a very quick tutorial on my rose. What I'm doing is using a polystyrene cone for the center onto number 20 gauge wire, and what I'll do is just the basic formation of the rose, wiring the petals, and then you can add the calyx yourself. Calyx, yeah, well, it's optional adding the calyx because it's quite easy to do, and then you can color it yourself as well. This is just a basic guide on doing the rose. I'm rolling out my paste using a little bit of icing sugar to dust my work surface. Then I'm going to cut out my petals and vein them. Cut your petals out, as many as you need to make your rose spiral. I'm going to now soften the edges and vein each petal before I start putting the rose together. This is the tedious part of making the rose. Right, now I'm ready to start construction of the center of the rose. I'm just using a water brush. I don't need to use glue gum or egg white. The sugar and water will form its own little bonding agent. Take your polystyrene cone. We form the little spiral of your first part of the rose, and you don't want to see the top of the cone. Then I add 2 petals and they overlap. Like so. Neaten the base. Then I'll attach 3. I'm going to form a tight spiral. Not too tight, but you want to make your rose breathe as well. You can add as many layers as you want. I'm only adding this amount. I'll open the petals out just a little bit. Then I will add 3 petals where I've just shaped them slightly with my fingers, and that will form a little formal bud if you wanted to use it as a bud at this stage. There we go. And I'm using same size cutter all this way. Now, the other thing I'm going to do now is start to prepare my paste so that it's ready for wiring, and I will be using 26 gauge white wire, white Japanese wires, to make this into a full-blown formal rose. When wiring your petals, your wire should be 2/3 or 3/4 the length of your cutter that you're using. So I'm rolling out my paste with a ridge down the middle and thin all around. And you should have something like that. There's a ridge from here to just about there, and then the rest around it is quite thin. You will prepare at least 5. This is not a rose that you would do if it was for competition. This is just basically a rose to look like a rose for a cake. So get my layers done, then I'll vein them and then tape them onto the stem. .26 gauge wire. I will cut them into 3s. I'm not going to use gum, sticking the wire into gum, because the paste is still moist, and sometimes I find the added gum in the center causes your paste to slip. If you're using good quality gum paste, flour paste, you shouldn't have problems. So thread the wire into the thick part of the ridge, all the way that the ridge allows. Neaten the bottom of the petal, soften the edges lightly with your fingers, and then we're going to start veining. Right, almost there. When you put your wired petals into the veiner, dust it a bit, and because your veiner has a slight curve the wire and the paste together, place it into it so that your wire doesn't pop out, and press firmly to get the texturing. And then what we do is we just shape our petals as we did with the other ones, and bend the wire slightly. The wire will curve to hug your petals, to actually hug the bud. Shape. And put aside. As you notice, I'm bending the wire slightly as well, so that it fits nicely into the veiner, and when I start taping, it will fit nicely around the main core of the rose. Now, I'm going to wire up more petals. As I said, I'm using the same size cutter, but you can also use a larger one if you wanted to. This is just icing sugar that I'm using, not corn flour. I don't like corn flour, it tends to dry my paste too fast. So it's a matter of choice for you. Cut up more wire. Start the process again. Make sure you press the paste firmly onto the wire so that they adhere to each other. As you notice, I'm not using any gum glue to insert the wire in. I'm just using the wire straight into my petals. This is a very soft lemon paste that I've used, and you can always highlight it up with a bit more petal dust. Now with my trusty double XL rose petal veiner, as you can see, the size of this veiner is the size of my hand, middle of my hand. Most of my petals here, so I can add to it. I'm not softening the edges with a balling tool or anything. I'm just using my thumb and fingers to shape the petals after I've veined them. I may have made a few extra petals, but that's all right. And now we're ready to just tape them up. Okay, now I will start to tape up my petals. And what I'm going to do is use green stem text. You can use it half width, but I'll use it at full width for convenience. And starting with my cone, I will tape up the stem first, then add my first row of petals. Bend the wire while the paste is still leather dry. And I'm going to add 5 petals around first. You can add 4, but I'm going to add 5 just to be different. So as I said, bend your wire and paste together. Then that forms our first row. And then I add my second row. This time I'll add 6, or you can have 7 petals if you want. Adjust your petals so that it's pleasing to the eye. Added my 6th. Tape your stem neatly. Make sure the back of the rose is neat as well. Then we start to open out our petals with our fingers carefully so that it looks like an open, full-blown, well, not full-blown, but a formal rose. You can highlight it by dusting, readjust the shapes of the petals. And this is the rose finished the MyCake Delights style.